Come on, man, smile. It's time for Club in the Goods.
Live from San Luis Obispo and Temecula, California, Alex Klepper, Bobby Goodsby, they're back. It's time for Club in the Goods.
Oh, Bob. Alex Klepper, Bobby Goodsby here on this Saturday morning edition of Club in the Goods. Bobby, how you doing this morning?
Good. How you doing, bud?
I am good. I am caffeinated, so that is always a plus on any day before noon. That is going to make sure that any, very simple ideas I have can actually come to the top of my brain and not just sit there inside my head while it bounces around. So that's always a good thing. If you want to do a radio show, you can actually let your ideas out. So I'm happy about that. And, it's just a beautiful day here in San Luis Obispo. It's going to be pretty hot today. So if you're listening on the Central Coast, maybe wear some sunscreen or a hat or, a tank top if you're a college student, because that's kind of what college students do. Bobby, how's Temecula today?
Yeah, the weather's beautiful down here. It's still mildly cool. I'm not ready for the heat to start rolling in like you guys. But yeah, no, I know it's upon us, and it gets really hot down here compared to San Luis Obispo. So not looking forward to that, but everything else is great down here.
Right. You guys at least have AC units all over the place, so that helps things. So today kind of feels like a Temecula day here in San Luis Obispo. We'll see how hot it gets. Bobby, it's June already, which is kind of crazy. It's been an exciting last, week and 2 days worth of sports since we last talked to the Kleppians and Goodsians. We had a pair of Game 7s in the NBA playoffs, a couple exciting games there. An amazing Game 1 of the NBA Finals 2 nights ago. We are tied at 1 in the Stanley Cup Finals between the Vegas Golden Knights and the Washington Capitals. Apparently, Tiger Woods is hunting down the leaderboard at whatever golf event they're playing right now. I just got an alert on my phone saying he's within 1 after shooting under 5 under in the first 9 holes. So Tiger's on the hunt. We had a rally goose sighting in Detroit, and the goose is fine. And now that the Tigers are destroying everyone after the rally goose. Johnny Football has made his professional debut up in Canada in a preseason game, but still did pretty well for himself. We might talk about that. And then the UFC had a couple events. They had one last weekend in Liverpool, and then we had one last night, the rare Friday night UFC event in Utica, New York. That was a pretty exciting main event that we'll talk about as we get going. But Bobby, of course, we want to start with what is the forefront in the sporting world right now, the NBA Finals. The fourth iteration of the Golden State Warriors and Cleveland Cavaliers. And I know you were kind of hoping for something different, something a little bit not of the ordinary in the last 4 years, but here we are again, the fourth time. See if Golden State can improve the record to 3-1, or if Cleveland can buck the odds and tie it up at 2-2. First, what are your thoughts on us getting to a fourth straight Cleveland versus Golden State series, and maybe tie that into maybe what your expectations were going into Game 1 and how they actually played out?
Yeah, for me, it's really unfortunate that this is the case, that we have a fourth straight year of the same two teams in the NBA Finals. I was talking to some buddies of mine. One's a huge NBA fan and huge Warriors fan, and the other one is not so much a NBA fan at all, but is an NHL fan. And he agrees with me. He says that the one that's the NHL fan agrees with me that the fact that it's the fourth straight year of these two teams playing is very unfortunate for the NBA, and that it's just going to draw people away, in my opinion, from watching something that we've already seen for 3 times already. And the guy that's a huge NBA fan was adamant that this is great for the NBA, that this is going to bring in a ton of spectators, that the numbers are up, that it's just going to prove that, these two teams are the best, two of the best teams of all time. And I'm just like it just boggles my mind that people don't want to see parity. And I get it, maybe he's coming from because he's a Warriors fan, but I feel for the majority of the NBA casual fans, this has got to be kind of an annoyance to see the same two teams four times in a row. So I don't know. I just feel like I'd rather watch something like the NFL where there's parity, where there's new teams every year. That yes, the Patriots get in a lot, but the fact is it's usually a new team or two. It's really NFL. And NBA, it just seems like you build a super team and you're stacked for at least 5 years.
Yeah, and I'm going to have to disagree a little bit, Bobby. I'm very excited to see these two teams go at it once again. I just think that, you know, if we have to look at the alternatives, yes, Houston would have been fun in there, but if Chris Paul is banged up, you know, that might not have been as exciting with the way that Houston plays and just James Harden kind of drawing 15 fouls a game and whatnot. And then with Boston, if they had Kyrie Irving and Gordon Hayward, if they had their full team there, I think that would have been made for an interesting finals against whoever they played in the Western Conference. But when you look at it, the two best teams right now, the best team in the West and the best team in the East, are moving on once again. And I'd rather see the best teams play against the other best teams instead of have just someone in there just for the sake of, you know, being new. I like the storyline that this is LeBron against really the juggernaut. It's possibly the greatest player of all time. I would say inarguably one of the top two players of all time. I'll maybe let you slide saying top three. I don't see who is you can have an argument against LeBron with, except for Michael Jordan. That is an argument right now, but hey, it's LeBron and MJ 1 and 1A right now in whatever way you want to put it.
Yeah, I agree.
Versus the Warriors, who have the chance of going down as maybe the greatest collection of talent and the greatest team that we've ever seen, with two bona fide Hall of Famers at the end of their careers right now in Kevin Durant and Stephen Curry. We have a multiple-time All-Star, or two multiple-time All-Stars in Draymond Green and Klay Thompson, guys who could be, you know, even bigger pieces for their team if they weren't part of this Big Four in Golden State. And I think I kind of piggybacking off what you were saying, I think part of the antipathy from some people who don't want to see this again is not so much that we're just seeing the same teams over and over, it's how those teams got there. I think if Kevin Durant was not on the Warriors, there probably wouldn't have been as much backlash against this being a four-time, you know, meeting between LeBron and the Warriors because, you know, Kevin Durant lost. He was up 3-1 with his own team, the Oklahoma City Thunder, going up against the Warriors. They lost the last 3 games, and then he decided to join the Warriors after that. People obviously had negative reactions about him doing that, kind of joining up with his enemies. And then there's still, you know, even 7-8 years later, there's still a little bit of animosity towards LeBron for the way that the whole Miami Heat thing went down, how, you know, taking his talents to South Beach. And I would hope that people are over that by now if they're big LeBron detractors, but I know there's still people like that out there. So I think part of what the notion that people don't want to see these teams once again is just a little bit of hating towards LeBron and Kevin Durant. Maybe I'm not 100% sure if that's everyone who feels that way. I don't know if I am in the same class saying I want parity. I just want the best teams to play, especially when you look around, you know, the rest of the sports world. There's been so much parity in all those other sports. We had UMBC be the first 16 seed to upset a 1 seed in the NCAA basketball tournament. We have the Golden Knights, the first ever expansion team to make it all the way to the finals, and I believe in like 60 years, when the expansion teams were just like the 6th and 7th teams in the league. We have, you know, the Minnesota Vikings almost making it to Super Bowl, but then the Philadelphia Eagles beating the Patriots without their starting quarterback. They, you know, have their backup quarterback in Nick Foles to beat the juggernaut Patriots. We had the Houston Astros, really, I mean, not a surprise, but they kind of built their team from nothing, and now they went on and to win the World Series last year. And I think it just kind of goes on and on throughout sports that maybe it's not bad for one sport to have a little bit of continuity and have these guys that you know, and you can really follow storylines like, hey, JR, he's an idiot, he does stupid things, and have that really pop up at the end of game 1. So I'm pretty excited to see where this series goes the rest of the way.
But see, aren't all of those storylines far more compelling than the 4th straight year of an NBA Finals that we've already seen 3 times? Like, I mean, I'd much rather see a UMBC or a, you know, Eagles with a backup quarterback win it all, or get teams play for 4 straight years. It's just not compelling to me.
But I guess what the point I'm trying to make is, not only do I just want parity, you know, throughout like the different teams, but we can have parity in storylines too. We don't have to have the same storyline, and that storyline being a new team steps up. We can have a new team steps up in one sport. We could have a brand new team created from nothing step up in the NHL, and then in the other sport we could have the old faithfuls duking it out once again in the NBA, and we can have a little bit of variety in the way that we view these different sports. And maybe it's because I like the NBA more than any other sports league, and I know you're a huge NFL guy, so that's kind of what you gravitate towards and the model that you like the most, and that's totally fine. I totally understand that, and I understand people saying they don't want to see this again. But for me, being a huge basketball fan and really second only in a minor second, there's like a very small gap between the UFC or MMA and the NBA. It's very exciting for me to see LeBron James having what could go down as the greatest postseason run that anyone's ever had. I mean, especially with the 51-8-8 he threw up in Game 1. He is just playing out of his dang mind this entire postseason, go up against a team that is stacked with 4 stars, 2 superstars, 2 former MVPs. I like the drama that has a 33-year-old best player ever or second best player ever going up against insurmountable odds and almost toppling them in the first game. I think maybe I'm so excited about it just because the first game was so good and hindsight is 2020. But, you know, if these games were 25-point blowouts, then obviously I would not be as excited. But Game 1 was just so good, I can't see how anyone can still have negative feelings about what we could see come the next few games of the series.
Okay. I see where you're coming from. I see your point of view.
Yeah.
I just feel like for the casual viewer that's not a massive fan like you or, you know, some others, I just feel like there's just not the draw there.
Right.
And the draw is the storylines, like you're saying, like LeBron for like, what is it, 9 straight years or whatever it is. You know, Steph Curry and Kevin Durant. Like, I get all those things. It's just, it feels so drawn out at this point that I'd rather see fresh blood in there and make it exciting and make it feel like it's anyone's game. You know, that's just my point of view. But I get your point of view as well.
The only thing I'm going to throw out there, Bobby, before we segue into Game 1 is, are you a Walking Dead fan?
No.
Okay, well, I was going to say, dang it. That doesn't help my argument. I was going to say, hey, you watched that for 10 straight seasons or whatever it is. Same thing, but okay. That's a bad point to bring up, Alex. Game 1
nice try.
Yeah, I tried. I really tried. That was my ace in the hole, and it didn't work. But given that, Game 1 was a really exciting game and one that I don't know if a lot of people were expecting. Obviously, the odds were huge in the favor of the Golden State Warriors. I believe in some places they were either 12 or 13-point favorites to win that game, and they almost actually got there in overtime, but obviously, they had to go to overtime to get there, so it was a very close game. LeBron James put up a masterpiece, 51 points, 8 rebounds, 8 assists, 19 of 32 shooting from the field, 3 for 7 from 3, 10 for 11 from the free throw line. And I know there's been some talk about how great this game is, or how great that game by LeBron is, but it kind of seems like that is being overshadowed by 2 things. One that I can kind of understand, and one that I'm not so sure I understand. The first thing that I understand that it's being overshadowed by is J.R. Smith's gaffe, rebounding that missed free throw by George Hill on the second shot with about 4 seconds left. And, I mean, he says afterwards he said he did not think this, but it's very obvious. He thought that the Cavs were ahead, and he dribbled back pretty much out to the half-court line thinking, oh, wow, no one's going to foul me. We're going to win this game going away. And it just so turned out that, hey, we're actually tied, and now we're going to overtime. So that is the big gaffe that I understand as being a big talking point. The second point, which is maybe it's kind of just an oddity, which is why people want to talk about it so much, is like kind of the skirmish at the end between Tristan Thompson and Draymond Green, and the whole should the Warriors have shot the ball with 2 seconds left and all that stuff. I mean, that's overblown. I'm glad that no one's getting suspended for that. But Bobby, I mean, I think the fact that LeBron playing so well and JR committing a gaffe so huge kind of plays into what we expected from this series and almost makes it, I'm not sure if I'm more excited for Game 2 because of these players playing into their stereotypes almost. But, I mean, part of me thinks that, but part of me thinks, well, the Cavs just had their best shot at defeating the Warriors